All right, guys, let's get started. So I want to mention first that this tutorial is going to be recorded and shared to the students in the whole unit, okay? So we're gonna, this week, we're gonna talk about how to make queries from programming languages, especially in Python, all right? So, So I can see Yuxuan has a question here. I'll give you the link later. Let's have a look at the tutorial material together first. All right. So earlier, previous weeks, we all do queries in this Postgres interface. Okay, it's fairly handy if you know how to make queries, but most of times when software developers want to query a database and make especially making that part into their program, they'll have to use pgadmin or SQL, Postgres SQL. In the code, okay? So let's see how it works with Python. And I think you've already, you should have already have learned something about Python from other units, all right? But if you haven't, I'll try to make this as simple as possible, all right? So first, if you use Jupyter or VS Code or whatever IDE, you need to import this CyclePG2 package. And then if you haven't installed it before, you'll have to install using this pip install exactly the same package in your terminal, or execute like this to basically install the package. Or if you use Anaconda and Jupyter Notebook, you can change this to Conda install. It should also work. Right. So later, please try this. After I finish explanation, let's have a look at the code first. So I split this to several parts. Okay. So previously, you remember when we connected to the database, we inputted lots of credentials. Like we can check this via pgadmin database and property. Okay. For example, I have the name localhost as the connection, and then we have host name, address, port, and username. So if we want to make the query, we also need make the query in Python. We also need these credential information. Okay, so these are the information I use. My user ID is Postgres. I don't have a password, and my host is declared in here as localhost. So we use this connect function in CyclePG2 package to make a connection first. All right, and I just pass these variables in here as the argument for this function to know my credentials. All right, and then this piece of code comes from the py file you download, which you can download from Canvas. All right, and we have some user code set it as unit database. If you have been working on localhost, you need to change this to your credentials. All right, and the connection part comes from here. So we provided the py file as in a class kind of syntax. All right, but if you are a beginner, you might haven't learned about this before. So I basically extracted something in here. So these are the essential steps we will need to do. Okay, so let's have 5 minutes. Okay, so everybody, please try to open your IDE and install and import the package and put in the right credential and make the connection first. Okay, and if you make the connection in this way, you can print this variable con here, and then you'll see a connection object. And that basically means the connection to your database is successful. All right. So let's have 5 minutes for the setups here before we move on, and I'll answer your questions later. All right, so if you have connected to the database, let's move on to how to make queries to your database. So we have used this some tables in previous tutorials, and we are gonna use the same set of tables to do it. Okay. Okay, so we explained this part is for connection, all right? And let's have a look. So if you execute, then you can see a connection object in here and says user equals to the information you provided, then that's gonna be okay, all right? So let's move on to how to make the query. So we have we will need to use the cursor function of the connection object. Okay, so previously we've made a connection, and there's a cursor function for this connection object, and then we can rename this thing into another variable called cursor here. Okay. And then I prefer to write my queries first. Like I use first line as select, and second line from tables order by. Okay, I put 2 lines in here, and I leave 1 space at the end of first line. Okay. And then these are just the SQL queries, and then we use this cursor execute function to execute this query. So in here, I concatenate these 2 lines together. Okay, you can make it 1 line, but it's this way. Personally, I think is clearer. All right. So once you've put these queries inside execute, the result is going to be saved inside this cursor, and then we can use this fetch one function to fetch 1 row from the cursor. Okay, and it's going to be returned as a tuple. Okay, so let's have a look in here. Let's execute this thing. Okay. So you see the results is coming back as tuple for each line. Okay, so I fetch 1 line and print the row, and then I fetch the next line. If next line is not none, I just print and fetch a further line, and the results are gonna be like this. Okay. So this is fairly handy, okay? Each line comes back as a tuple, okay? So if we want to do some sort of string manipulation to make this data looks better, we can do it with Python, right? We can find out the data from each position inside the tuple and do a sort of a string concatenation like this. And then we get rid of the print original row function. There's I think I need to get rid of this line. This is basically for another query. So let's run it again. Okay, so the original data is sort of reorganized, and sort of enhanced in a nice looking way. All right, so this is how we get data back from the database, and then we process and show it to the user. Okay. And after we fetch everything back from the cursor, you can use the connection close, the close function to end this current connection. And all these parts basically these blocks are all the essential things you need to know about querying database using this package, okay? All the essential stuff is in here. And you can try to code like the way I did, or you can use this class function. It's basically the connection is in this connect to database function, and then you have a sample. You have a sample solution in here with basically the similar, the exactly same functions actually to do the same thing, but the whole function and variables is wrapped in a class. So if you're not very comfortable with class, you can go with these things here. I just basically peeled things out for you. These are the essential functions. And if you are good with the class, you can try to execute based on the py file we provided, okay? All right, so if you're good with this part, let's try exercise 2 first, all right? So exercise 2, we have 2 small questions. Question A, make you basically ask you to return additional attribute in the from the database, and you might need to join another table and see what's going on. And if you don't remember what table you're going to use, you can always go back to PG the main and find out in the original schema. All right. Okay, so and for B here, we want to wrap this whole thing into a function. So each time we can put an argument, and then maybe we can filter this data out by additional message provided by user in a way of function argument. Okay, so if I put lecture equals to somebody, and then you should be able to put that information into a where term in the query and return the required information. Okay. So that's about exercise 2. Okay, let's try to do this first and then see the solution together after 10 minutes. Okay, so it's gonna be 5:33. 5:33. Okay, so let's try exercise 2. All right, so let's have a look at this part together. So Hanpei actually raised a good question here earlier. So if you execute the installation in Jupyter Notebook and for some version, it doesn't allow you to input some information in. So you might need to install it in the terminal. All right. So let's move on to the solution for exercise 2. Okay. So basically for exercise 2A, you will need to join another table. Okay. This is our original query. And to find out the information of the instructors, you'll need to join the original code with academic staff table. Okay, and then you will need to select the name attribute. Okay, and also each time, if you want to show the name out, you'll need to add the fifth position in the row tuple. That's basically the name attribute. And then if you do some further processing, and it will come back like this. All right. So question B asks you to write a function to filter out based on the instructor name. Okay, so it's going to be like this. So actually, we don't need this here, I suppose. Right. So you basically want to design a function like filter by name, and you put a name in, and then basically you want to filter out these two entries taught by John Patrick here. And you can just define the function and wrap the whole thing inside. And then you leave the name as the argument. Okay. So if you call this function and supply this name variable can be found out inside the function. So what you need to do next is you change the query by adding a where term and the name equals to the thing we just input here. To do that in Python, you can use string.format function, okay? So if you leave a bracket inside like this, and you use this .format, this name variable will be put inside a string out by Python, all right? And we have another way to do it in the class solution we provided. Basically, this have a percentage sign, and then it has a bracket to put in the variable. But the function is the same, okay? So if you want to use the format or the other form is all fine, but the trick is to use the string manipulation to put the variable inside. So the query can be where name equals to John Patrick. Okay, and then we add the order by, and we concatenate this Q3 and Q4 to make the whole query come together. Okay, and let's try to run it. Okay, see this filtered out the entry with John Patrick. Okay, so that's how we deal with exercise 2. Okay, so let's move on to exercise 3. So exercise 3, A and B is actually quite similar to exercise 2, but you'll need to get different information from different tables, and you'll need to create a information based on student ID. Okay, you can have a read later, But let me explain exercise 3C and D first. Okay, so last week when we went through trigger, we introduced how to create function in PostgreSQL, right? So this is exactly the same syntax. Okay, so we can actually let me explain this function a little bit first. So we want to return a table with these attributes, and then the input of the function is an integer student ID. Okay, and the query will execute these clauses here, and it will use the input student ID in the where term and sort of put the results in the return table. Okay, so this is what this function does. And if you have a function like this inside the database already, then you don't really have to write exactly the same query in the Python code. Okay, so you can just call that stored procedure or function in this way here. So in cursor we have a call procedure function, all right, and then you can just call this procedure by name, by the name we created in here, and you supply the input in this way. Okay, and then you execute begin first, and then call the procedure, and the procedure will be executed based on the input you provided, and then the result will be returned in the cursor. So you can further process like the way we showed earlier. All right. Okay, so I hope everything is clear with this part. So in order to do question D, you have to create the function first in your database. You can do this in pg_min like what we did before. All right, and then you can change your queries and code in here. Try to call that procedure and see what's going on. Okay, so let's move on to exercise 3, and please let me know if you have any questions. All right. All right, let's have a look at this part together. Okay, so for question 3A and B is fairly close to exercise 2. Okay, we are using different tables here, but the functions involved and the whole procedure is basically the same. It's just we supply, we make the variable to student ID this time, okay? And let's see question 3D. So again, I let you see this part earlier. So if you already have this list transcript function created, then you can just call it after the begin execution, supply the student ID, and sort of have the very same function with what you have done previously with queries inside. Okay. So after you call the procedure, or the cursor fetch one and processing part is the same. Okay, so if you see the results like this, it means your queries are correct. Okay. All right, so these are all the explanation part for this tutorial, and if you're all good, please feel free to leave early, and I wish you enjoy your midterm break. All right. So if you haven't finished or you have questions for me, please stay here and ask me. Okay. So I'll be here till the end of our tutorial. Okay. Thank you.